Moonshot just released Kimi K3, and one of the first things it did was design its own computer chip in one weekend, unsupervised. And here's what makes this interesting. K3 is open. The full model waits everything released to the world for any provider to host and build on. So if you run a business or you've been watching this AI race waiting for the moment it actually touches your bottom line, this is that moment. Let me show you the numbers, what it can really do, and the one thing Moonshot is surprisingly honest about. So how good is it really? Let's do the numbers before the demos because they tell a sharper story. Let's start with the wins, and there are real ones. Kimi K3 finishes first ahead of every model tested, open or closed, on a string of benchmarks that matter. Program Bench and SWE Marathon on the coding side, Spreadsheet Bench and Automation Bench on the work side, plus Deep Web Research where it tops both Browser Comp and Deep Search QA. On Terminal Bench, the agentic coding test, it's 88.3, a hair behind GPT 5.6 Sol's 88.8. and ahead of everything else. Now, it doesn't win everything. On Humanity's last exam, it trails Claude Fable 5 by a wide margin, 43 to 53. Fable 5 also edges it on the toughest software benchmark and across most vision tests. Here's the fair read. Kimi K3 is near the top on the practical agentic work most businesses actually do, and a clear step behind the best closed models on the hardest frontier reasoning. But here's a number that reframes all of it. Cost. On the coding benchmark, K3 scores about 72% at roughly $4 a task. Claude Fable 5 scores higher, around 77%, but it costs $10+ a task to get there. On web research, K3 basically ties the best closed model while costing half as much per task. So you're looking at roughly 90 to 95% of frontier performance for a fraction of the price from a model you're not locked into. Now, I want you to hold that thought because the what it can do part is where it gets ridiculous. Remember the chip from the start? That wasn't marketing. Given open source tools and 48 hours, K3 designed, optimized, and verified a working chip, one built specifically to run an AI model. A model designing hardware for models. Read that twice. And it goes deeper than a demo. In the late stages of building K3, Moonshot says an early version of the model did most of their own team's low-level engineering, rewriting the GPU code that makes the model itself run faster. One of these systems it invented from scratch matched tools that took human teams years to build. The model is now good enough to help build the next model. The people at Kimi handed K3 a research job that would take a trained specialist 1 to 2 weeks. K3 finished it in about 2 hours, reviewed 20+ papers, wrote 3,000 lines of code, caught errors in published formulas, and handed back an interactive dashboard you can click through. It builds full consulting-grade reports with live charts. It edits videos, real editing, cutting a finished piece from 50+ raw clips and syncing to the beat. It ships software across enormous codebases with barely anyone watching over its shoulder. This is the boring, expensive, time-eating work that fills a business's week. Done in an afternoon. So the question stops being, is open source AI impressive? It clearly is. The real question is the one nobody wants to say out loud. What's the trade-off? And here's what I respect. Moonshot just tells you. In their own launch, they say plainly that K3 still trails the top closed models and that using it day to day feels a step rougher than the polished options. They flag 2 things worth hearing if you'd actually deploy this. 1, it can be too eager. Hit something ambiguous, and instead of stopping to ask, it'll make the call for you. It's great for a solo experiment, but really risky when it's touching your business without clear guardrails. 2, it's sensitive to how it's run. Switch to it mid-task from another model and quality can wobble. So why say all that on launch day? Because they're not competing on being the single best model on earth. They're competing on something businesses care about more. Near frontier performance at a fraction of the cost that doesn't force you to hand your data to a frontier lab. And for most real work, that combination wins. So here's the takeaway, whether you're running a company or just tracking where this goes. Now, let's be honest about open. You're not going to spin up a 2.8 trillion parameter model in your office. Almost no company will. So forget the fantasy of hosting it yourself. That's not the point. The point is choice. When a model is open, you're not stuck sending your data through one Frontier Lab servers to use it. You can run it through a privacy-first inference provider, one that doesn't train on your inputs, doesn't retain your data, and isn't building a competing product on the side. Your customer records, your internal docs, your workflows, the stuff that is your competitive moat stays yours. That's the real prize here, and it's the thing closed models can't offer at any price. Frontier AI used to mean renting from a handful of labs and trusting them with everything you fed it. As of this launch, you get comparable performance and you decide who touches your data. That is Kimi K3. And if you're a business owner looking at all this and thinking, okay, but where does my business actually start? That's exactly what I do. I run an AI strategy consultancy where I help clients cut through the noise, figure out which problems are worth solving with AI, and actually build the solutions that move the needle. If you want a clear read on where AI fits in your business and where it doesn't, I've dropped a link in the description to book a strategic diagnostic. We'll map out your highest leverage opportunities and a concrete path to build them. If you enjoyed watching this video, hit like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.